This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello, and welcome back to yet again another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media, brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing?
We are doing pretty well this week. How are you?
I am not too bad. It's been an interesting week, but it's good. I've been able to get out and do some fun things with my daughter, and so I've really appreciated that.
That's always good. It's always good to build those memories. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't really have any witty anecdotes or anything for the week this week.
none that we can talk about on air.
Exactly. So, why don't we go ahead and get into our guest? Usually I have Chris introduce the guest because usually he's the one who has booked it, but this time I'm going to go ahead and take that one.
Tim did some work.
Yeah, look at that. I actually did something for once. No, I'm really excited to talk to this person. He and I have followed each other on Twitter for quite a while. He's got a really interesting story. Just a lot of really interesting things in general. So I'm really excited to talk to him. Podcaster, content producer, boxing photographer, a little bit of everything. So our guest this week is Ryan Hafey.
What's up?
Ryan, welcome to Old Man Strength.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of tease the audience a little bit about what you do, but I think you probably have an opportunity to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So, okay. I do a few things. First of all, I'm a husband and father, 3 kids, 3 dogs, if you want to count that. By day, my day job is I work for Premier Boxing Champions, aka Heyman Sports. My title is actually Vice President of Digital, but most people know me for my boxing photography work, which is kind of my primary role when it comes to fight night. But we do everything digital for PBC, whether it's in-house content creation, social media marketing, going to the events, working with fighters, managing the website, email marketing, all that kind of stuff. Me and my very small team get to spearhead that. So a lot of fun over there. On the side of that, I have my own little production company. By little, I mean just me. But one of my main gigs through that is podcast production. So I work with Sean Porter, who is a former 2-time welterweight world champion. He started his podcast almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years next month. And I've been rocking with him on that, just handling the behind the scenes production, get everything uploaded out on YouTube, kind of, all the creative, getting everything looking good. And then occasionally I'll do photography and video gigs and things like that every now and then when they come up and when time allows. But yeah, I think that's about it.
I mean, that's about it. That's quite a lot.
It's a lot more is piled on over the years for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, as you and I have kind of followed each other, it seems like you always kind of have something going on. I did want to take a second to talk about your dogs, though, because you did post an absolutely adorable picture of your dog earlier today. Uh, um, that seems like that's quite a full household.
Yeah, 3 dogs. We just got a new puppy, an English bulldog. This was my wife's dream to have an English bulldog. We had a pug who was just kind of her baby who passed away, months back, and so we finally got her a new baby. So he's terrorizing the house right now, trying to make friends with our other 2 dogs. We've got a Cane Corso, which is an Italian Mastiff, and which he looks big and scary, but he's afraid of everything. And then we've got a little Chiweenie who is kind of the instigator of the household. So yeah, I mean, with 3 kids, 3 dogs, definitely keep me on my toes for sure.
You're running the gamut there for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you got into Premier Boxing and how you got into covering boxing and kind of what that backstory looks like.
Sure. So it's a very unconventional route compared to most people that get into boxing, in that, boxing's a very tight-knit industry. And usually if you work in boxing, you kind of come up in it or are involved with it from a young age, or maybe you came into it, from your family. My story was a little bit different. So when Premier Boxing Champions was launched, I actually started with the company prior to its launch, but basically they were kind of looking to sort of revolutionize what's going on in boxing, and just really they wanted to make a big splash. But what they were looking for initially was content creators, and I had experience prior to working with this company of just doing my own in-house content, YouTube channels and things like that. I'd put my work out online, LinkedIn and things like that. And it was back in summer of 2014, someone just messaged me randomly from a company called KO Sports, which I'm Googling, and I don't see anything for KO Sports. I'm like, what's going on here? What is this thing? We have this opportunity in boxing that you might be interested in. Let me know if you want to chat about it. Thing is, at the time, I was working for a digital marketing agency that, and I just wasn't enjoying it. I was, doing social media content for like government agencies and things like that. And it was just not very, very fun work. So I thought, okay, what do I have to lose? This seems a little bit sketchy. Worst case scenario, I go meet with the guy in some public place where there's people standing around. Yeah. And if it sounds a little bit too weird, I can just walk away and that'll be that. And went and sat down with this guy who would eventually become my boss. And he kind of told me what was going on. I wasn't a boxing fan prior to this job. My wife, who is Filipino, obviously, and whenever Manny Pacquiao fights, they like to get together and have the big family party. So I did watch a lot of his fights, but I didn't follow boxing a whole lot. And they said, we're not looking for people who know boxing necessarily. We're looking for people who understand content. And, to be actually 9 years this month now that I've been with the company, and I've obviously had plenty of time to kind of learn about the industry over that time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was just my content background that got me into it. And I've been there ever since.
So let me ask you about before that, when you were doing your YouTube channel and things like that, what inspired you to start that? And what was some of those early days like?
That's also kind of a big question. I mean, when I if you want to go way back, I grew up in a small town, no cable growing up, kind of one of those areas where you can just leave your doors unlocked and walk around.
Yep.
Didn't have much drive in life, just knew that I was kind of a free spirit. So, I thought I was a creative person. Ended up going to college and still didn't know what I wanted to do after college. Ended up declaring a major in marketing, thinking, I'm sure my creative abilities can go to work there. And then after college, actually, as I was getting out of college, that's when social media was kind of coming around, and Facebook, which was still only open to college students. That shows you how old I am. But Facebook was just kind of coming around. I was getting really interested in how companies were starting to use this new tool called social media to drive business and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, this is under the realm of marketing, so maybe I'll try to kind of go down this route. And so I pursued a career in social media marketing, And what I kind of realized as I went along was that I enjoyed the process of kind of creating content more than I did actually, creating marketing campaigns and posting to social media and writing captions. I was also the kind of person growing up who I was very envious of artists, like people who could draw and paint like realistic things. I remember my dad used to draw football players on a napkin, and they were so lifelike, and I was so mystified by that, but I just never had that artistic gene in me, I guess. So that kind of led me to the world of photography and video, in that, I could just sort of take what already exists and, create something from that versus trying to draw something from scratch. And that ended up working out for me. So everything just kind of evolved. In fact, we're on a podcast right now. One of my first sort of content creation ventures was in 2009. I started my podcast shortly after getting out of college in 2009. It was some, I didn't do it for too long, just kind of long enough to figure out how it works. Had some fun with that. From there, I moved on and bit the bullet and bought an entry-level DSLR. Started using that to take pictures of the family. After a little while, my wife and I started a YouTube channel where we called it Pintastic Recipes, where we would find interesting Pinterest recipes and we would cook them and we would rate them. And it was actually a lot of fun. And then that led to a number of other projects on YouTube. I've started and left behind plenty of channels at this point, but it's just kind of been one thing after another. And everything sort of now has all sort of come back full circle, in that I'm doing podcast production, which kind of marries all of the worlds of audio and video and even photo to a certain degree. So it was just kind of a progression over time.
So you talk about photography. One thing that I've known you for is your boxing photography, which is just some incredible stuff.
Thank you.
But it's also something that has to be, I would think, very difficult to photograph because of the action and the pace. It's not like, still lifes or or nature photography or anything like that. You've got a lot of movement. But were you all just kind of self-taught in all of those things? Did you take any courses? Like how did you get to be as good as you are at what you're doing with that?
I mean, ultimately just a lot of practice. I am mostly self-taught. I think for a lot of my creative endeavors that I pursued early on, I would, join a lot of Facebook groups and sort of groups of peers who are doing the same thing to kind of get validation. Like, what do you guys think of this photo? What do you think of that? Whatever. And got a lot of good feedback from that. But ultimately it's just, there's the little dog we spoke of earlier, by the way. But yeah, just really practice. I mean, I've been shooting boxing since I guess it'd be 2014, 2015. So really just a lot of reps. And when you're shooting a fight night that can have anywhere from 8 to 12 fights on a card, and you're shooting all of those fights and you're shooting hundreds of photos for each fight, it just kind of adds up over time. But yeah, it's just reps.
Yeah. How many pictures do you think you take in any given fight night?
Well, on a fight night, do some quick math. Actually, you know what? I did the numbers recently. I put up a tweet about it. I forget how much it was, but I mean, I probably shoot 5,000 to 6,000 photos in a night.
Wow.
And of those,
wow,
I would say I keep 700 to 800, and maybe 600 to 800, somewhere in that range. So there's a pretty big ratio or a pretty small ratio of keepers to actual shots taken. But I mean, boxing's, you just kind of have to point and shoot and hope you're going to get that, that perfect contact. Sure. And all the sweat spraying and everything.
I would imagine that's a lot of quick decisions going through those photos, going, nope, not that one, not that one, not that one, not one. I mean, you'd have to get through it all. So
yeah. Well, I'll shoot around the way that I've created this workflow that works really well for me over time. Like I kind of pride myself on how quickly I can get some quality photos at the end of the night. But basically, you shoot around And then between rounds, you go through, look at what the shots you just took during that round. And then in camera, you can rate them so that when you are finished with the fight, you can offload them, sort them by just the ones that you rated, process those, and get them out the door.
Nice. I mean,
that's cool.
It makes you really kind of appreciate boxing photographers from 40, 50 years ago that didn't have digital. Like how arduous of a process that must have been.
I've got a few of these cameras up here. Not this one. This one's a little bit too outdated, but just like some of these really old film cameras. And there's been a couple occasions where I've taken these to fights. They're all manual focus. So, and I've tried to, just for a round or two, see if I could get some shots, and it's incredibly difficult to manual focus. Like so yes, to your point, I agree. Those guys are the man. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'd be scared to death to do that, and then that's the one round where something amazing happened and you couldn't get it in focus, and then I'd be scared to death. So
yeah, a nightmare.
So you weren't a boxing fan before. Would you consider yourself a fan now at this point?
Absolutely. I've learned over the years that boxing is it's such an interesting industry, and it's one of those sports. I think this is part of the reason why boxing struggles to have kind of the fan base of some of these other big sports like NFL and baseball, hockey, in that you can't really just follow the fighters. Like there's so much to the story of boxing, whether it's the promoters and the managers and the boxing teams and the coaches and all of the things that sort of happen between those camps and all the conversations that happen online. All of those things add up to the story of boxing. And as I've gone along, in the beginning, it was just kind of, I'm here, I'm doing my job, I'm learning a thing or two, putting this piece of content together, whatever. But over time, as you get to experience the story of boxing and become a part of it, you really don't have a choice but to just, immerse yourself in it. And I would say I was never a big sports guy anyway, played some sports growing up, hockey, baseball, but never was the kind of person who would take the time to really follow along with the sports outside of it. But I definitely do that with boxing. And I love boxing at this point.
I was a big boxing fan, late 80s all the way through the 90s, early 2000s. Watched pay-per-views, would get pay-per-views. Our buddies would get every pay-per-view, play cards all night till the main fights would come on. It was an appointment thing to do. I unfortunately now could not tell you any of the champions or anybody that's even remotely popular in that sport. So my question is going to be that, Jake Paul seems to be bringing lights back, or eyes at least back to the sport. Is he good or bad for boxing?
You're going to hear some very passionate opinions about this on both sides. My stance is that I think it's good for the sport in that it's obviously bringing eyeballs to the sport. Now, you could argue a lot of these people that are watching are just watching to see Jake Paul. But and I don't have any hard numbers for this, but you have to imagine that some of those people are sticking around to see kind of what happens and where he goes from there. And then that evolves into people, just getting more interested in the sport. So, and the thing with Jake Paul is versus some of these other celebrity boxing matches you see is, these celebrity boxing matches, they just kind of go in to earn a paycheck. And, Jake Paul, he's a promoter now and he's a fighter. He's helping fighters. He's doing a lot for women's boxing at this point. He's actually, and he works really hard. I know people who have been involved and kind of covered his fights and his training and stuff like that. Him and his brother Logan, like they work really hard and they actually give a crap about the sport. So, you can hate him all you want, but at the end of the day, he's bringing more eyeballs in and that's what we need.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I definitely feel conflicted because he is such a tool. But
to your point though, Tim, do you think people are tuning in to watch him get knocked out?
I think people are hoping
they feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are. I think people hope that he is, but he's actually, it was one thing when he was just beating up on kind of aging former you know,
Yeah.
former professional athletes,
Sure.
you know, right? To now to the point where he's actually starting to prove himself as a legitimate fighter, which it almost pains me to say, but he actually like he's put in the work, and I think there are a lot of people that do want to see him get knocked out, and so far he's demonstrated that he is living up to what his mouth has claimed. So yeah, it really pains me because he is such a tool. But
I would like to see him take it, or at least stick to boxing. You know, he's talking about he's fighting MMA fighters, and then he's like, you know, fights Tommy Fury, yeah, but then he goes back and fights another MMA fighter. Then he talks about wanting to go into MMA and fight over there, which, you know, he can do whatever he wants. I would like to see him try to stay consistent with boxing and move up. And you also, like, you know, people watch him fight and they're like, he's not that great, which at this point he's still not. But you also have to think these young guys who just turned pro, he's got what, like 7 or 8 fights now. If you look at other fighters who go pro, when they're fighting their 8th fight, they're still fighting 4-round fights, you know, and they're still learning. They still look a little off and a little weird. So, you know, if he stuck around for long enough and really dedicated himself to the sport, I don't necessarily see him ever becoming a world champion, but, you know, he could do some damage.
Yeah, it's it's fun. It's funny, this whole idea of just like, you know, when you're a celebrity, you can kind of go and do whatever you want type of thing. But yeah, he's actually it hasn't been, you know, it's been more than just a gimmick at this point, which is kind of surprising to see for sure.
Yeah. So you said that there's you know, heated debate on both sides. What's the other side of that argument? I mean, inside the industry, there's got to be some, he hasn't earned his dues. He's, you know, making a mockery of the sport, things like that.
That pretty much summarizes it right there. It's you know, it's the boxing purists, I think, which it's interesting because, you know, I've ruffled some feathers on Twitter too. I like to kind of go in on it, on the trolls a little bit who make some very strange takes when it comes to boxing. But there's a lot of people who out there who consider themselves boxing purists, who will go out and say things like, you know, oh, what that fighter did at the weigh-in was uncalled for, or he didn't have to, you know, talk so much trash about this guy. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, imagine how boring boxing would be if everybody in boxing stopped doing what you say they should stop doing.
Yeah.
Like if it was just fighter, okay, this fighter's going to fight this fighter, no trash talk, no promotion, they just fight in the ring. Like, how boring would that be? All that stuff is the kind of stuff that makes boxing interesting. But yeah, it's the boxing purists who sit around and say, oh, he's just making a mockery and he's going out there and, you know, making it look bad. Well, I don't necessarily subscribe.
I mean, boxing has been a spectacle and big personalities forever, whether that be Muhammad Ali or Don King or what, like, I don't.
Mike Tyson bit a guy's ear off. I mean,
I was there for that. You know,
were you?
I was in the MGM Grand for that.
Wow.
I didn't get to see a fight because, you know, Marty Terrell screwed me. But that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, that
We've
is
already done an episode on that.
Yeah, that is a whole other episode. But yeah, it is one of those things where boxing is about some of these, particularly, you know, combat sports are about entertainment as much as not just, you know, the fight itself being entertainment, but the whole industry is sort of about entertainment. It's not, you know, to the level of professional wrestling, but you have personalities, and you look at the UFC and you think about all the personalities that have been in there, and I think probably you also just have to probably have a screw loose to do that in the first place. So I think have you since you've gotten into the sport now, have you ever tried boxing?
I haven't. I did not even like with one of the boxers. Like I did a boxing class, like a fitness class a long time ago. That's about as close as I get. I like to jump rope and I like to, you know, hit a heavy bag every now and then if I have access to one, but it's been something that I've wanted to do for a while. I just haven't jumped in and done it.
My neighbor is a boxer, and when I first met him, he asked me my name 3 times, which is funny because his name is also Tim. and on the 3rd time, he goes, "I'm sorry, I'm a boxer. I get hit in the head a lot."
No, that's terrible. There's a lot of that too. That's a concern in the sport for sure. Is that memory loss?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's cool. I want to shift a little bit though and talk more about kind of the content creation. I sound as good as I do right now because of you, actually. And you do a lot of stuff to kind of teach other content creators how to produce podcasts, things like that. What gave you kind of the impetus to actually get into talking about the art of content creation in the first place?
Well, and just to what you said, I wish I could do more of it now. I haven't been able to update my podcast in quite a while, just with life and everything, as we talked about, my busy life. But
Yep.
just I kind of learned relatively early on. Some of the earliest YouTube videos I made were just tutorials. I would learn to, how to do various things in video and photography, and would share those. And I learned that I was pretty decent at it. I would get a lot of good feedback and comments and things like that. And I guess that's just really it. I just felt the need to kind of share what I knew. I was interested in the subject matter, interested to kind of share it, and people seemed to kind of latch onto it, and it just kind of kept going.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. I think there are some things that when I have listened, I've learned a little bit, and I'd like to think that we're a little bit better at this game because of you and people like you, as we continue to figure out what the heck all of this is.
Thank you. You sound great.
Good. Yeah. Again, it's largely because of the tools that you've given me and advice you have given me. So I certainly appreciate that.
Sure. Happy to help.
Well, we have a few new pods and things like that. So Tim's talking about what he's learned. What is a piece of advice that you would give somebody that is starting out in the podcast world? What's probably the main thing that you need to bring across to them?
There's so many ways to answer that question. I think the biggest thing, the question that I get most from people when it comes to podcasting, and podcasting is obviously very popular right now. The pandemic really, kind of shot it into popularity. People like, what kind of gear do I need to get? It's always the question, what kind of gear? And I think that's the wrong question to ask. I mean, at the end of the day, you can, what's it called? Anchor, like platforms like Anchor allow you to record podcasts directly from your phone. Your phone. I always tell people, like, if they need an answer to the gear question, get yourself a nice light. Get some good soft lighting, and you can, like, if you had your phone and you were standing just in a room with some crappy overhead lighting versus standing with like some sort of soft light, you'd be amazed at how much that can make your video look better. So, I think just kind of sticking to gear, I would say get a good light and get maybe a decent audio, because get a decent microphone, because audio is the foundation of podcasting. I would start there. The other thing is podcasting, because it's so saturated, you really have to be consistent with it. And you kind of have to not be wavered with not having a whole lot of views or downloads for a while. So you gotta pick a niche, you gotta stick with it, and you gotta just kind of keep going. And that's really these days, that's really the only way you're going to get any kind of pickup in this podcasting game.
Did you see that this comment that just came across here?
George Trice wants to know if it'll help Marcus Pfizer look better on our podcast side of the storm. I don't know, George. He eats a lot of vegans, so I'm guessing probably not.
I mean, it can only help so much. So there's a limit.
God knows it's made me look so much better. I bought it. So
yeah, no, I I've always said that I've got a face for radio and a voice for silent film. So I think any help that I can get at all.
So George does have a serious question. What if you're short on content? Do you still record?
I mean, that's part of it. Part of having a podcast is coming up with ideas. I mean, consistency is really the key. I wouldn't recommend if someone wants to start a podcast. Most podcasts, as you'll know, have a very consistent posting schedule, whether it's daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is. And your audience learns to expect that over time. So if you're posting weekly and then you skip a couple weeks and you have a following, people are going to notice that. So that's just something you kind of have to bear down and figure out. If you don't have content, well, sit down, jump on Chat GPT and see, ask it for. I've done that plenty of times. Like, I have no shame in that. Like,
I don't either. I use it all the time.
Yeah, everybody gets inspiration from everywhere. Chat GPT has been helpful with at least coming up with kind of that initial spark of an idea that I can elaborate on. If anything, just keep a list of ideas as you're walking around grocery shopping. Something pops in your head, or put it down on your phone. That way, when you're low, I used to do this all the time with my podcast when I was more consistent with it, is if I didn't have an idea that I felt like I wanted to run with that week, I would just go into my notes and say, what haven't I done here? Oh, this looks good. I can expand on that, and then just go from there.
Yeah, I remember. It's funny you said during the pandemic. That's when Tim and I had started, was late in the pandemic. So we had plenty to talk about, whether it was making fun of people that didn't want to wear a mask or Trump or whatever else. So we had plenty of content, but there were times where I think the day of I would message Tim and we'd be like, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have anything, but somehow it would work out.
Yeah.
So
I've been there plenty of times. Yeah. It's hard, man. Like, it's a grind. It really is. Like, if you want to do it well and you want to stay consistent, it's tough. It's not easy.
I admittedly, I don't know enough about boxing, but it does seem like there's always at least something as far as producing a boxer's podcast, that there would be something to talk about fairly regularly, right?
Yeah. With Sean Porter's podcast, the Porterway podcast, really every episode is just kind of a recount of what happened that week. So, and Sean, he's retired now, but he does a lot of commentating on, DAZN and he's, Fox and Showtime. So he's got a lot of experience on the mic and he can carry a conversation. I mean, his podcast is usually between an hour and a half in length. And so there's no loss in content when it comes to boxing, because there's always something going on, even if there's a small card, and even if there's no boxing that happened in a couple weeks, there's a lot of different topics you can choose from, as far as fantasy matchups, or what's this fighter up to, when can we see him back in the ring, etc. So there's always something to work with.
Yeah, I mean, you think about football podcasts. Football, runs from August to February, but the remaining months, it always seems like there's still plenty of things going on, whether that be free agency or projections for the next year, or any other off-season drama, or those types of things that go on. It always seems like sports in general became a 24/7 type of thing, that there's always something to go on. I mean, that's the whole model of ESPN. I remember, when I was young and SportsCenter launched, and everyone watched SportsCenter, and then it run like 5 times a day, and you'd continue watching it, and you watched the same episode like 3-4 times or whatever, but they managed to cycle through all of the same stories over and over again, and obviously there's a market for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit more about then Premier Boxing Championships in general. Tell us a little bit more about what your role as digital, what all that entails.
It's a lot. So, we used to have a much larger team as a startup, and then, over time, as things happen, it's just you sort of start to reel things in, and so now we've kind of whittled down to this small team that we have currently. So the digital team for PBC is myself. I have one other digital comrade, and then we have a graphic designer. And we, anything that you see that goes out on Premier Boxing Champions social channels, it comes from us. So we either created it in-house or clipped it from another piece of content or created the graphics, whatever it may be. So any content campaigns, we create all the content campaigns for upcoming events, do all the in-house social media content creation, scheduling and posting all the content. We manage the website, so we're the ones, updating fighter pages and getting all the bouts and stuff on the website. Email marketing. We will travel to fighter camps, training camps, and get photo and video content with them, sit them down for sit-down interviews and things like that. In fact, next week, there's a big fight coming up between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo at the end of September. And there's a press tour coming up soon for that. So we're going to be traveling to, it's New York to LA. So in back-to-back days. So on one day, he started in New York, do a press conference, jump on a plane, go over to LA, do the same thing again, press conference, and then a whole bunch of marketing stuff. And then you come back home. So I'll be there for that with camera in hand and my 40-pound, backpack of all my gear, and just kind of collecting as much content as I can. And then outside of that, we're even, we collect footage from the networks after fights and organize and distribute that as necessary. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I was gonna say, I know you've been up here to Minneapolis. I know you travel quite a bit. You are kind of located in an area where a lot of fights happen. So you do have that benefit, but there has to be a mix of a lot of things that you can cover there, but also that you do have to travel around. And one of the things that we talk about on this pod a lot is managing work-life balance, being a dad, and things like that. So, what what advice do you have? Denny, I want to ask that question here in a second, but let's go ahead. Like, what advice do you have for managing all of that?
Oh God, it's hard. The most recent, we had a fight on July 29th. It was the Spence and Crawford fight. And that was probably the craziest event that we've done, just as far as the build up and the workload and everything that went into it. And the 2 weeks leading up to that fight were crazy. Like it was a struggle, professionally and at home. We had just got the puppy, so now we had this new responsibility in the house that we had to deal with, and it's hard, man. It helps that I work from home. Basically, everyone in the company is remote, which makes it a little bit easier because, I can just get my job done whenever I need to, and then go help out, drive the kids to activities or whatever it may be. But I've learned that, the older I get, I'm always trying to sort of, my goal is always to get to like relaxation. I find myself just trying to kind of hurry through things just so I can kind of sit down on the couch and maybe, flip on Twitter or whatever it may be for a little bit. That's sort of like my default these days. And I just kind of have to occasionally remind myself, like, you got to just keep going. Like one of my mottos is just keep going, just like keep moving. You have the energy, you can do it. And I would much rather at the end of the day go to sleep knowing that I had a really productive, good day, even if I'm exhausted. And that includes whether it's work or whether it's, going to a kid's concert or whatever it may be. I would much rather end the day knowing that I did everything that I could throughout the day, than feel like a lazy bum all day. So, to answer the question, it's, you just kind of have to just keep going. And like, I don't really know how else to put it. It's tough. And there are definitely times that are harder than others. Like, like I mentioned with this fight, like it created a lot of tension in the house. It was not easy. But luckily, at least in boxing, it's very cyclical. So there'll be times where there'll be some lulls. Like right now is kind of a slow time. When it picks back up, it gets a little bit harder. So it's just kind of it's a cycle.
No, I appreciate that. I think sometimes, sometimes my struggle is when things get the most hectic is when my body and brain want to shut down the most. And
Mhm.
so the idea of just keep going is important because that requires a you talk about in boxing, there's a hype man. You need your own kind of hype man to just keep going on some
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Working from home and having all of that things that you do, the podcast and the photography and whatever, do you find it sometimes hard to separate home life and work life? I know with
Oh,
me,
yeah.
I've worked from home now for the last 3 years, and I find like I need that separation. I almost crave now to have an office and things to go work at, so that I feel like there's some kind of separation. The minute I walk into my house, it's mine, and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, the lines are definitely blurred these days between work. I mean, I have, instead of like sort of separating work and home, I have just little things that I'll do at home. Like I'm a bath guy. That's my decompression activity is I'll just
Do you have a
like
whiskey in the bathtub? Because that's what Tim does, and it still creeps
I
me out.
occasionally.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
occasionally.
have candles? Because Tim has candles.
I can't lie. I do. I do. I do.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Ryan and I have even commented on posts about this. I think I've posted on Twitter about having a whiskey and a candle in a bath.
I'm telling you.
In my
Man,
defense,
listen,
I'm too fat.
don't knock
to fit
it
in a
till you
ba-
try it.
I can't fit in a bathtub. So in my defense, that's the only reason why I do it.
But like, yeah, like I just have to find things like that. Those are kind of my decompression events. As long as I have those, I maintain a level of sanity. I have recently, speaking of whiskey, I've gotten into whiskey a little bit as of late. So I'll sit down and enjoy a glass and just kind of chill, I watch Netflix a little bit more now than I used to as a way to just kind of get myself away from the computer. Cause I mean, as much as this space is where I work, it's also where I have fun and like make my own personal stuff. So
Yeah.
again, that kind of makes it even harder to separate. So I just kind of have to, go towards those little activities.
Well, speaking of whiskey, why don't we go ahead and take a break and hear from our friends at Revelton Distilling Company?
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
I don't remember my own address as well as I remember 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa.
know, right? I know.
Ryan, if you ever make it to Iowa for any reason, I don't know that Iowa ever hosts any fights in any way, shape, or form. But if you ever make it to Iowa, you'll have to head on down there. I mean, we don't really. Hey, you made it to Minneapolis, and we almost never have too many things on a card here. It does happen from time to time.
Yeah, they have a lot of fights at the Armory there.
Yeah, the Armory is
fun venue.
The Armory is really neat. I did not think so when that got converted to an actual venue. What was that? 8 years ago, maybe. I don't remember how. It hasn't been that long. I did not think it was going to be as good of a venue as it is, and it's amazing. It's a really diverse one, right? So they can host boxing, they can host concerts. It's really good for concerts. I actually really like concerts. The bars are all on the side. You never have to wait in line for a drink or to go to the bathroom. The acoustics are great. The diversity of what you can hold there is surprisingly good. I'm really happy with that. It's good. We're a sneaky good city for things like that.
Yeah, we've had a number of fights at the Armory. I've only been there for one at this point. But I had a lot of fun. Like the venue's great. There, it's like kind of standing room only, which is not traditional for a boxing event. So you get these people that are just kind of just wandering around, and the crowds are always really hyped to be there. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I where did you end up going for a drink? You asked for a recommendation when you were in town. Do you remember where you ended up going?
I don't know.
I think I told you Mackenzie.
Yeah, I don't know if I had a chance to make it out there. I know I met my cousin at the Mall of America for a little bit. But I don't know if I ever had a chance to get out and explore a ton.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I might not have made it.
Sure.
Next time.
Okay. No, absolutely. Yeah, next time you're in town, let me know and we'll hook up and grab something.
For sure.
One thing that I got asked before the break that I actually thought was a really good question was from Denny that's popping up right now. How hard is it to get your gear through TSA?
It's not, surprisingly, it's not that hard. I mean, my camera bag is typically like 40 pounds. And I carry it on my back. And I mean, really, I'm trying to think. It doesn't get pulled a lot. And usually if it gets pulled, they check for things that I wouldn't expect at all. Like they're just, they find like I had this little metal comb, and that's what was flagged.
That's what they flagged,
and that's what they pulled out. But yeah, I mean, typically I usually get through pretty easily. I haven't got any, pulled out for any random searches or anything like that. At least not for a while.
TSA is so random. I have made it. I've made it to a destination with something that got flagged on the way back. So I made it all the way through one security, or a friend of mine got on the plane and reached in her pocket and realized she had like a surgical scalpel and surgical scissors. Well, when you're like a ambulatory vet, yeah, you do have those things in your pocket. Yeah, right. And so she didn't even realize she made it all the way through with all that stuff. Meanwhile, I had like a 1-inch ferrocerium rod that they got all bent out of shape for. So
I came back from Vegas when the Iowa State game was there, and got all the way through TSA. Got to my gate. I had a gift for a buddy of mine. He can't drink beer, but I had bought one of those fake glasses that you put in the freezer that looks like it has beer in it, and it freezes or whatever. I went through TSA, got to my gate. They canceled our flight. I had to come back out, go to another gate to get on a different flight, and they flagged me at the other TSA and threw it away. So in the same airport, I did not even have consistency. So it does not surprise me one bit.
There have been times where I've gone through and they'll pull something out of the bag and, they'll check for it. I'm like, I've flown with this 100 times and you're the first person, and they don't care. They're just like, whatever. Well, it's not how it works here. Okay.
My son, Jordan, we came back from Alabama and he had bought these shiny metallic cards, like playing cards, and they were in his carry-on, and they flagged it, and they pulled his bag, and the kid has Williams syndrome, so he doesn't fully understand everything going on anyways, and he's starting to get anxious, and they can't get his suitcase open, and we had problems with it before, and my wife was just about ready to tell him how to open it, and they had broke the suitcase open, and everything had spilled out, and man, I thought Jordan was going to have a meltdown in the middle of the session. Yeah. And he was screaming and yelling at him, and I was like, you have got to shut up, or we're
all going to get taken to a back room and sat down.
You over there fix the suitcase. I was like, it was like a madhouse in there. I thought we were all going to get kicked out of there.
But traveling
all because of all because of some metallic playing cards. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why I did TSA pre-check, because they really barely give a crap about anything at that point.
Yeah, because when you pay a lot of money, you're not a terrorist.
TSA pre-check is one of the. I still haven't done it. I don't have clear. I don't have pre-check. Nothing. I should probably do that, but I guess I've been doing all right without it so far. So I don't know,
it's funny. There have been times where my TSA pre-check. Like I'll travel with someone who doesn't have it, and they get through the line just as fast, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, whatever. It didn't really save me a whole lot. I'm like, but I didn't have to take off my shoes.
There you go.
That would be worth it to me.
that alone. The older I get, the harder it is to tie my shoes. So I just not having to deal with that.
I don't blame you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. What did I see the other day? Someone got flagged for one of those switchblade combs.
Okay.
First of all, they should get flagged because the 1980s called "Watch your knob and comb back." Who has a switchblade?
Yeah, they're like
packed it next to his Rubik's cube.
Yeah, we didn't. we did not flag you because of anything dangerous. Oh, that's nice. Are you a Rubik's cube guy?
I can solve it like in maybe like a minute and a half, but
God.
I'm no speed cuber or anything.
A minute and a half is still pretty good.
That's
it's not
pretty good.
It's not like those nerds that can do it behind their back or things like that. But that's
Blindfolded.
still. I'm 5 years in. I still haven't been able to do mine. So
YouTube videos. Just learn once you learn all the algorithms. It's easy from there.
Oh,
it's funny. Everyone gets us. Oh, you can, no way. It's so like it's just remembering a series of algorithms is really all it is.
It seems like a lot of work. I just used to pull mine apart and put it back together.
That's another way to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's stickers. You can just
there's stickers. I've done that before too.
That's my life hack is to just beat the system like that.
That's right.
There you go. I like it.
Ryan, one thing I did want to ask you about, because you have been so open about it on social media. You also went through a heart valve. I guess I don't even know what procedure you went through. How did that, like, how did you get diagnosed? What was leading up to that, and what's that journey been like?
Well, I could go on forever about this. So I was born with a congenital heart valve defect. It's called a bicuspid aortic valve. If you picture like a Mercedes logo, that's kind of what a normal heart valve looks like, where there's 3 flaps that open and close to let blood through. When I was born, I had 2 flaps because 2 of those had fused together. So it sort of creates a valve that opens and closes like this. And you can see there's sort of these openings on the side. So over time, that valve opening can get a little bit smaller. Calcium can kind of collect in these areas here, which it's called stenosis. So the heart has to work a little bit harder to pump blood through. It's actually not all that uncommon of a condition. About 2% of the population has it. I've been creating some content around it, especially on TikTok and Instagram, just kind of talking about my experience going through it. And it's been interesting to see how many people have actually either had the condition or went through surgery already or are about to go through surgery. But it's something that I've known that I've had since I was born. And I knew that one day it would require some surgical intervention. A lot of people who have it typically don't need it till they're a little bit older. And there's a few different procedures that they can give you that to fix it. The kind of the common ones are they take a tissue valve from like a pig or a cow. Typically, they'll put it in a catheter. They'll run it in a vein up your leg and then just kind of insert it. And then you're in the hospital for a day and then you're out.
That's crazy.
The issue with that procedure is that
it's insane.
While it's crazy, it's the least invasive, but it also has a shorter shelf life. It's like 5 to 15 years. But literally, like when you get a new one replaced, they just put another one right in there. But over time, the more you do that, obviously, the less effective they become.
Sure.
And because I'm younger, they didn't want to do that. The other being a mechanical valve, where it is an open heart surgery, they put the actual man-made mechanical valve in there. The issues with that is, yes, the longer shelf life, but you have to take lifelong blood thinners because blood can coagulate in the little creases. And if, one of those gets loose in your brain, you're dead instantly.
Sure.
The other being, and this would drive me nuts, is that apparently you can hear it. So like if you're standing next to someone, they can hear your heart clicking
Wow.
as the valve
wow.
opens and closes, and that would just drive me nuts. So
Wow.
I was
That would-
hoping to not do that. So what I ended up getting was it's called the Ross procedure.
Mhm.
It's a less common procedure, but what they do, it is an open heart procedure. They open you up. They remove your aortic valve. They take your own pulmonary valve, put that in the aortic position, and then they replace your pulmonary valve with a human donor valve, so an outside donor valve. And the
Okay.
reason they do it like that, a few reasons actually. Number one, your pulmonary valve is obviously your own tissue. So if you're using that to replace your aortic valve, your body's less likely to reject it. Number two, pulmonary valve is very similar in its construction, apparently, to your aortic valve, so it can kind of learn to behave like it.
Wow.
But the big one is the aortic valve is a high pressure system. Pulmonary valve is a low pressure system. So some people might ask, well, why wouldn't they just replace the aortic valve with the donor valve? And that's because a donor valve is not going to have to work as hard in that pulmonary position. So if you put your own tissue in the aortic position, in theory, it should last longer. And actually, the longevity curves for this procedure show that people typically last longer and don't require more surgical intervention as a result. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those things you shared on social media looked intense. But I was amazed at I mean, obviously I don't know, but based on what you said, kind of the recovery time seemed a lot quicker than I would have expected.
Yeah. I would say so too. I mean, and shoot, like even in the hospital, they don't let you wait long. I went in for surgery on a Wednesday morning, got out Wednesday afternoon. By Thursday, they had me out of bed and walking, like taking
That's
steps.
crazy.
Yeah, like literally
Yeah.
your chest
Yeah,
was
that's-
open on Wednesday. And on
Yeah.
Thursday, they're like, yeah, I know we just opened up your entire chest cavity, but
Exactly. Yeah. Recovery was rough, but it was slow but very consistent. It's just kind of one of those things where you just realize every day that you were a little bit better than the day before. I was in the hospital for 4 nights. Went in Wednesday, got out on Sunday. We stayed for a few more nights because I had the surgery in LA. Doctor named Dr. Von Starnes, who, by the way, also did the same procedure on Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's known for he's known worldwide for like working on children's hearts. So
Sure.
I felt in pretty good hands. But so yeah, I was across the street at the hotel for a couple days recovering there, and then my parents drove out to drive us back home to Vegas. And a lot of like I stayed pretty active. Like I moved around quite a bit, but still a lot of sitting down. I bought a lift recliner that's still up in our room, so I could kind of easily get up and down from my chair, and got some meal prep and things like that, so that I could have some easy access to some healthy food. And just kind of every day you go for your short little walks and try to stay active as much as possible. I did a little bit of cardiac rehab, I think around November. And then I would say probably by the beginning of this year, I was pretty much back to full health and back to work and everything.
Wow, that's
Wow.
yeah. It was just insane to kind of watch, and like obviously I'm not living your day to day, but to see how like quickly you got back, because some of the pictures that you posted were I don't even want to say graphic, but like it was very clear that you went through a major procedure.
Yeah. There's a good 10-inch scar here, and then I have these 2 scars kind of just above, like right below the rib cage, where they had like drain tubes, like that go into your body about a foot, and they're about a quarter-inch thick.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, it's such a crazy experience, and I feel great today. The interesting thing, though, that I like to tell people is that the one thing that I haven't gotten used to. I mean, I'm back to. Well, I'll say this. So one of the really, I didn't have a ton of symptoms from this, but like, the metrics were showing that the opening was getting closed. That's why they told me, okay, now's the time to go get the surgery. But the only real symptom I had prior to surgery is when I would go for a run. I would maybe run for 60 to 90 seconds, and then my chest would just tense up.
Yeah.
like it would start to be painful, and I had to stop. I had to take a seat. If I stood up too fast, I get tunnel vision. So
Yeah.
probably my heart just having a hard time pumping the blood through.
I've had that since 1985.
But ever since the surgery, I can do all of that. I'm lifting weights. They just tell me don't, no more 1 rep maxes like I was pre-surgery. But one of the things, where was I going with that? So the one thing that I haven't gotten used to, I feel normal as far as everything's concerned, except for one thing, which is I haven't gotten used to the way that my heart beats in my chest yet.
Oh,
which sounds a little strange, but it's almost like when they went to kind of pack everything back in, they sort of like the heart shifted just a little bit. So, if I'm laying very calmly in bed or whatever, like my heart beats up against my lung. So you can almost hear little mini breaths in and out, and like it just feels like it beats a little bit harder. So that's been tough to get used to, but everything else I feel great. I feel back to normal.
Well, that valve's really working, and you can really tell the beats now.
Yeah.
That is insane because you think about it, like every once in a while, like the way you lay on a pillow or whatever, you can feel your heartbeat in your ear, or you can hear it or whatever. But for the most part, like 99.9% of the time, I'm not even thinking about my heartbeat. So to have that be a constant reminder, I think would definitely be, I don't know. I get in my own head a lot too. So yeah.
But this is I struggle enough to deal with that. I couldn't imagine like having a mechanical valve and just hearing clicks, through my body all the time.
Well, you think Aaron would be irritated by me clicking my pin all the time on a podcast? Imagine if I had a heart that clicked all the time.
All right. Well, Ryan, we're going to go ahead and take a break here and hear from our sponsors at Wintrust Mortgage. But we have a specific question that is sponsored by Wintrust Mortgage. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and let you ask this question.
Okay. Ryan, you have a magic time machine that can go back 10 years. You have the option to go back and meet Ryan from 2013. What piece of advice are you going to give him? I'll have you hold your answer. We'll get a message here from Kyle, and then we'll come back and get your answer. Okay.
Okay.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right. And thanks again to Kyle for being such a great sponsor. Be sure to look him up for any mortgage needs you have. So, Ryan, again, you have a time machine. You can go back and talk to Ryan 2013. What piece of advice are you going to give him?
Well, knowing everything that I know now, I think 2013 Ryan would have never imagined that 2023 Ryan would be where he is. I'm blessed in very many ways. I have a career that I love. I have, a great family. I just have a great life at the moment. And I think if I had the opportunity to go back and say anything to myself, it would probably be just, you're going to be fine. Like just keep going to kind of the callback to what I was saying earlier. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't pass up any good opportunities, but you're going to be fine. I think that would be very comforting to me at that time, at a time where, yes, I was kind of working in a field that I was interested in, but still not knowing where I was going with it or where it was going to take me. Just to kind of have that comfort of knowing that as long as I just kind of keep down this path, I think I'm going to be all right. Would mean a lot to me back then.
Great. Yeah. Tim, did you notice he did a callback? It's not his first time he's been on a podcast.
Well, that's why I asked him on.
Write that down.
Write that down.
I like that.
Callbacks to the previous part of the episode.
Yes.
Who'd have thought? I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, right. No, I very much appreciate guests that actually do our job for us. I think that's all the better. Excellent. Well, Ryan, we have a segment on this podcast where I'm going to introduce this one because Chris always loves to tell a story that it was
tell
about
the truth. I like to tell the truth.
She literally disavowed this truth that you claim is going on, and I'm not going to go back and listen to her podcast to validate what the truth is. But we have a segment on this podcast sponsored by our friend Steph Copley, where we STF you and let you say whatever you want to say to our audience. Literally anything you got on your mind. This is an open forum, and Chris and I are going to shut up and let you talk. So Chris, go ahead and throw in Steph's little pitch there, and we'll get to that.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
So Ryan, with that, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, Old Man Strength podcast listeners, I'll give you a little dose of motivation. Just want all of you to know you're doing great. Just keep what you're doing. And if you keep doing what you're doing, working hard, you know, you're going to be fine. Just keep going. That's my message. The Old Man Strength. That's all
I love it. We don't often get like true motivation. And
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's great. I discreetly, Ryan, that's a message I need to hear. So that's actually really good.
No kidding.
Keep going. Just keep going.
No, absolutely. Cool. Chris, what other questions do you have for Ryan before we let him go?
I don't. I think it's been a pleasure getting to know you, Ryan, and hearing your story. And heck, it may even make me want to watch some boxing now. So, what's the next big boxing match that I should watch? If I'm not a regular watcher anymore, what's the one I need to watch that'll get me hooked back in?
The next big one on our schedule is going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo, September 30th. That's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view live from Las Vegas. You've got Canelo, who is undisputed at 168 pounds. Jermell Charlo, who is actually undisputed at 154 pounds, is going to come up and test himself against King Canelo. So that's going to be definitely one to watch. A lot of kind of up in the air questions around that one. Does Jermell, him coming up in weight, is that going to be a problem for Canelo? Canelo's getting a little bit older? Does he still have what it takes to take on some of these young guns? That's the fight that I would watch.
He's on the tail end of his career for sure.
Yeah, he's getting up there. He's it's what's interesting because I think he's still like was he 30 now? Like he's getting older, but he's not that old. But he's had such a long career already.
Some of those boxers are like running backs, where they start to tail off pretty sharply in their 30s, right? I mean,
and he's and this is not to say that this is like taking away from boxing for him, but like he's starting to show interest in a lot of other things. Like he's apparently a really good golfer now,
Sure.
So he's been doing a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, even if he was to end his boxing career, I'm sure he'd he'd be just fine. But so it'll be interesting to see what he can do in September. And actually, he'll be with PBC for 3 fights, so we've got him for at least three more fights. So he's gonna entertain some fans for another year or two on our platform.
Excellent. Well, I tell you what, Ryan, it has been great chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit more. One of these things where we've interacted, semi-frequently on social media. It's been actually fun to sit down and that's all that this podcast is. It's an excuse for me to hang out and talk to people I don't get to normally talk to. That's basically the entire impetus of basically everything at Three Beards Media, honestly.
Well, and Tim, I've told you this before, but you're still one of my favorite people on Twitter.
Oh, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Gosh!
Of all,
Chris, you're not so bad yourself. I mean, I just started following you.
Just start following me. I know. I appreciate it.
Of all the people on Twitter, I am certainly one of them. No. Really appreciate it. It's fun getting to know you. This has been a blast. I do want to make sure that I give a shout out to all the other pods on Three Beards Media. We have too many right now for me to even list, and we keep on growing by the day. Chris, do you want to talk about anything that we have going on in the podcast and content network we have created here?
It's been a busy past week. We had you guys on Bitter Units had a really good episode last week. Hot Miss had a new episode last week. Caitlin and I had a Like Father, Like Daughter on Monday. Hawk's Eye View will have another new episode tomorrow, and then we interview Jordan Bohannon on False Starts tomorrow night. So it's a busy week around here. So and according to George, he's going to be on a regular schedule now once a week because Ryan said that he needs to come up with content regardless. So yeah, Ryan, I appreciate it. Anytime we need some motivation for those guys, just get those guys on there. You should have a talk with Aaron.
Exactly. No, I appreciate that. So please go ahead and check that out. Please go ahead and check out our sponsors in Revelton Distilling in 1400 West Clay Street, Osceola, Iowa, and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Please go ahead and check them out. Check everything else on the Three Beards Media Network. And with that, we will catch you guys next time.